All right, so we just got done watching Kaguya-sama season 3, episode number 2, and this episode was absolutely amazing. Now, I'm definitely going to talk about the beginning portion of the episode with Miko and with Ishigami and everything. I definitely am going to talk about that, but I really just want to put a hone in on a focus. There was a very significant thing that happened this episode with Hayasaka and with Shirogane, right? And I actually really love it. So the plot device behind it is Shirogane was pulled into a karaoke event by his friends or classmates or whatever, and they did that because he looks stressed. He is stressed. He looks stressed out. Homeboy has bags under his eyes. I mean, this dude is tired, like tired, tired, and they pull him to have a good time, and immediately. Obviously, Kaguya is always watching him, but her and Hayasaka, Hayasaka's like, hey, he's going to a mixer, essentially, right? Like, he's going to go and intermingle with a bunch of ladies, and is that what you want? And they immediately come up with a plan to saying, like, okay, well, we can't let him do that. We can't let him associate with other ladies there. We need to go and put a wall between him and them. And obviously, Kaguya's like, well, I can't go do it because that would immediately taint me, and that would have implications that I'm not ready to deal with because I can't be seen as somebody from the Kaguya family or whatever it is. Like, I can't be seen at these types of events. So she's like, but you can. So she ends up sending Hayasaka, and during this whole time, like, Hayasaka is not in a good mood. She is fuming. Just her being there, she was like, you threw me in a den of wolves to be eaten, essentially. And in those moments, she was having like some real, how do you say it? She was having like some real reactions to that whole entire situation. And her reactions were done in front of, done in front of Shirogane. And he's finally like, hey, I'm glad that I'm actually able to see this side of you. He's like, it's always like that you are putting on this show, putting on this act, like you have like this barrier around you of fakeness, essentially. He's like, I'm actually really happy to be able to see this part of you. And she schools him a little bit, like, well, could you do the same? Because you're constantly doing the same. You're never true to who you really are. You're always putting on this act. And that gets him to think a little bit. And they definitely have that in common, that they always put up this show, like they always put up this field on who they aren't, right? Like, even her, like, she goes to their school and stuff, and how she acts, who she acts with, everything, like, yes, part of that is her, but, like, it's not the real her. Like, she's putting on an act to appeal to whatever she's trying to accomplish. Same thing that Shirogane does. Like, the student council president, yes, that is who he is, but he has to work hard to make sure that that's how he's perceived, essentially. So I really like that they were both kind of, like, able to call each other out on that stuff. And I like how it kind of like pushed them forward a little bit. Then you have the moment to where, Shirogane is like, you're right, I got to get out of here kind of thing. So Hayasaka ends up being hit on by like one of the random dudes there. And Shirogane comes at kind of like knight in shining armor moment. And I was like, God damn, like, let's go, Shirogane. Like, he really showed up right there. And Hayasaka in that moment, like, she kind of like realized, obviously she saw what he was doing, but the meaning behind it and the feels that she had at that current moment, you know what I mean? Like, that's what was important. Like, that's what was, had meaning behind it. And she ends up saying, like, to Kaguya, like, oh, you did want me to seduce him at some point. You did want me to come in and show up. She's like, this is the time. And although she might have had those intentions in dragging him into a karaoke room and stuff, she definitely backtracked on that because they just ended up singing karaoke. But what was real was the moment that they shared. Those two moments when they called each other out on realness, and then when Hayasaka was saved by Shirogane. Those two specific situations were very, very real. And some part of me actually really likes the fact of Hayasaka falling for Shirogane in some way, shape, or form. Now, even though it might not work out, at least you'll be able to see, like, yeah, this dude has like a lot of redeeming qualities. And Kaguya maybe only sees like the fake part of him, but like the real him, there's something there too. You know what I mean? And Hayasaka, I think that this was the first step in her realizing that. And I actually really, really, really like that, like, quite a bit. Now, obviously, that puts some inner turmoil between her and between Hayasaka and between Kaguya. What does that mean exactly? He's probably gonna end up with Kaguya regardless at the end of the story. But the fact that she could come in, and if she has some real feelings, that could be some really interesting stuff there, and I actually really like that. Now, rewind back to the beginning, and I'm just saying that I love the story. Like I was really engrossed in it. I was like the whole entire time. Rewind back to the original portion of it, and the Ishigami and the Maki stuff. I love their banter between each other. There is something there. I do think that they like each other. She has been, basically like one of his front runners and always defending him and stuff. Like, I like that there's like this underlying, like they like each other underlying, and they got called out on that. So immediately I like the relationship. That whole entire scene was funny. And I really dug it quite a bit. That's really all I have to say on it. And the last thing I will say is Chika showed up at the karaoke place. She knew what Shirogane singing meant, and she dipset. She was like, I'm out of here. And I just love her emotions, and I love her willingness and unwillingness, and her realism on top of everything else. Like, Chika is definitely like best girl for sure. And I definitely love that she was like, yo, I'm out. Like, I'm here, but I'm out. Especially when she saw Hayasaka basically like defeated by his singing. But another fantastic episode. Kaguya-sama is so freaking ass funny. It's so good. And the plot is just awesome. And I love the inner turmoil that's beginning introduced slightly, but it's 100% there. Let me know what you guys thought about this week's episode down in the comments down below. As always, I appreciate you guys being here. We'll see you guys next week for episode 1 to Trey. Peace out, guys.